Hey everyone, welcome back to the new mainstream. Excited to introduce today's guest, Ingrid Otero Smart, President and CEO of Casanova McCann. She spent decades leading one of the most important multicultural agencies in the country, working across independent ownership, holding company integration, and now navigating what could be seen as one of the most complex moments our industry has seen, from the rise of multicultural marketing to total market to what now are some are calling a pullback. What I wanted to explore with Ingrid today is part of the leadership and entrepreneurship we don't talk enough about, the upside, the opportunity, and what it really looks like to build and lead through change. Ingrid, are really excited and thank you for coming on.
Happy to be here. Thank you for the invitation, Mario.
Yeah, so when we were talking about this, I think one thing that really stuck with me was your optimism and how reframing running a business as building, not surviving. But you've spent your career building and leading within agencies at different stages. I want to start off, what originally drew you to this space?
Well, I think it was serendipity, I would say. I was in Puerto Rico working in advertising, but had never heard of the Hispanic market. This was mid to late 80s. We didn't have Google to Google what does Hispanic marketing mean. And in
Yeah.
Puerto Rico, we were the general market, right? This is all we were doing. But I was young, young, single, and one day I got a recruiter calling about this possibility, and I'm like, why not? I went to one of my bosses, and then one of them said, if you go, your career will end because no one cares about the Hispanic market. And here we are, 30 some years later.
Jumping off with some advice right away, right? I mean, it sounds like you felt a calling, right? You're so it's good to get listen to advice and to mentors, but sometimes when you know.
Yeah, I think you have to trust your gut. And sometimes we have to take chances that we didn't plan on because I never planned on doing this. I really thought at some point I would work for a year or two in the mainland, if you may, because most of our clients in Puerto Rico came from the US. They were quote unquote expats because Puerto Rico was, for many multinational clients, was international. So they will go there, do a year or two, and then leave. So I thought, as an account person, I would be a better account person if I came to the States and see and experience how people worked here. But my plan was always to go back after a year or two. But
Yeah,
those plans changed.
believe it or not, I mean, in the research case, Puerto Rico is still kind of dealt with like if it's an international space. Like when you talk about US Latinos, it never includes Puerto Rico. And then when people want to do research, they still like, what are the laws there? Like, and I'm like, well, there are some different things with sweepstakes and whatnot, but yeah, it's interesting. Still, 40 years later, it's still treated like a different country.
Hmm. Hmm.
Back to my intro, a lot of conversations around leadership and entrepreneurship focus on how hard it is. You wanted to highlight some of the positive sides. So what do people get wrong when building a career like yours?
First, when we look at the Hispanic market as a whole and where we are today, I guess when you've been around as long as I have, you've seen it all, right? You've seen the ups and downs, and you know that it's all cyclical, right? We've lived with this kind of uncertainty before, and we did more than survive, right? We thrived. So it is hard when you're going through it, but things will change because what's not going to change is the size of our market, and the importance of our market. And yes, there might be less immigration than there was when I started in Hispanic marketing in the 80s. But the growth is coming from U.S. Latinos that want to be recognized and marketed to us as Latinos. So what we're what we're going through today, I see it as a temporary thing. The important thing is let's make sure that we shore up, that we continue to develop our people and develop our capabilities so we're ready for when things start changing again. And that will be soon, I am sure.
You mentioned up and downs, right?
Hmm.
And I think that's one thing that's helped me kind of framing the moment that we're going through it from a historical perspective, we've actually been through worse, right? Like, I mean, there's been worse times, and I'm sure you've experienced those in through your career and got through it. Can you highlight or do some moments stick out to you that made those downs worth it? Like, what are some moments where you maybe went through some adversity? Could be personally, macroeconomically, politically, through climate, that you look back and say, yeah, you know what, that was worth it.
Probably one of the most recent ones is during the pandemic, right? That's still, Jesus, 6 years ago now. It doesn't feel like it. It feels like it was
No,
yesterday. But, during the pandemic, we were part of a global publicly traded company. And we had to be making financial decisions based on our shareholders. And that wasn't necessarily for us as a business, that wasn't what was going to keep us uh, alive and ready for what was going to happen after the pandemic. And that's when we divested from our holding company and became minority owned. And that was a big, scary moment because clients were pulling back, and I would talk almost daily with our clients, and I would hear from them like, "Hey, we're selling everything we can produce because even without advertising." I was always reminding them, well, this is temporary, right? Because
yeah,
once we get back, we're going to have to rebuild our brands. And the majority of them understood it. Not everyone cut their budgets. I mean, they all reduced their budgets, but not everyone went away. And that helped keep us afloat. And then once we divested, and things started coming back to normal, it was really the best thing we could have done. We thrived after the pandemic, and here we are 6 years later, and we're doing better than we were in 2020 for sure, 2021.
so you made the right decision, obviously. From that perspective, I mean, you were leading the company in a holding company. Like, what are some things that people underestimate about leadership at that level?
It was really a hard time, besides obviously from a personal standpoint, but from a professional standpoint, because you're here um, leading a company. At that point, I think we were 42, maybe 50 employees, and you feel that you are responsible for them. I mean, you are responsible for them. So the decisions that you're making have to be right for them first and foremost, and that's not what would happen if we were part of a publicly traded company, right? And I think I always say that what you hear is always what's bad with corporate America, and I think our story, my story, is what's right with corporate America, right? Because at that point, Interpublic, which was our owner, could have said, "Well, that's what you have to do, and that's it." And but they listened to my concerns about, hey, if we do these cuts, we're not going to have an agency to run once the pandemic is over, and our clients love our people. This is a people business, as we don't have anything else but our people. So they're not necessarily interchangeable, and they listened and they said, well, go ahead and do it. And they gave me the support I needed. I had never planned to be a business owner. I had no idea where to start. And in less than 6 months, we had to basically create a new agency out of what we had. We had to find out our own benefits packages, our own email system. Everything had to be new and separate. And we had to do it in less than 6 months. And they supported me at every step. So I would always be grateful for that. And also when I said the best way for us to do this, for our clients to, is to stay affiliated, not to be fully out of the group, because a lot of our clients were part of Interpublic, and I knew that they would need that reassurance, and they agreed to keep us as an affiliate. So we are minority owned and controlled, but we still are tied to McCann in this case, and that has helped our business tremendously, and I think we'll continue to.
I'm loving this as an entrepreneur. I mean, the takeaway I'm getting, one, is you're centering your people, and I think that's
Mhm.
something that new business owners, maybe that are solopreneurs and they want to grow, don't take into account. I sure didn't when I founded Think Now, right? I think we're about there. We're almost 50 people. You don't realize that you start to grow that it's not just you, right? Like you may have something in mind, but might not be best for the people that work at your company. So that's really great that you centered them. I think the other takeaway in what you're saying is like you weren't afraid to tell an IPG like, "Hey, here's what's best for us," and not in a combative way, right? Like you're just like being open with them, and you kind of got the best of both worlds by just being honest, which I think is really great.
This didn't just happen, and it wouldn't not necessarily happen to everyone. I had been working at Casanova for 15 years, 16 years at that point, and had developed a good reputation within the network. I developed amazing relationships, mutual respect. I never took them for granted. I never took what they did for us for granted. And I think all of that goodwill paid off. It wasn't done because of that, but when time came, was everyone came back. Everyone that I reached out to at Interpublic and at McCann said, "We will help you. We want you to succeed. We're grateful for what you've done, and we will continue to support you." And that has been true to today.
That's such a huge decision. I know you're thriving from the work. I follow you all, and you have some, great success. Is there anything that sticks in your mind? I mean, because I imagine that transition was tough from making that decision before telling anyone. I can imagine that weight on you to telling them to actually executing the decision on what's arguably one of the most difficult times to navigate through the pandemic as a business owner. Is there a moment that sticks out to you where you're like, you know what, that was worth it? Like, it could be a client, an employee that something happened, a story that you could share with us, or you were like, you know what, that was worth it.
I would start with right when we were making the announcement to our clients. During the pandemic, I was spending a lot of time, obviously, on the phone, talking to them, making sure everything, keeping the temperature. When George Floyd murder happened, and all our clients were making commitments to diversity and inclusion, that was putting us, I thought, long term in a very difficult position, right? Because here we were Hispanic. Hispanic is usually the largest multicultural budget, and we were non-minority owned, and all our clients were making all these commitments. So I was reaching out to them saying, "Hey, great job doing this pledge," because they were all making them publicly. Proud of you, proud of this association, but what does that mean for us long term, right? Because we're not minority owned. And every single one of our clients would say, "Don't worry about it. We've written the pledge so that we can continue to work with you because we love your team. We don't want to go anywhere else." But I knew, that was not good for them to have to be doing that, and also for us, because CMOs don't last a long time in this day and age. So what happened when the new CMO came? So once I started making the calls with the person that was at that point my boss at McCann, and every single client was like, "Wow, this is the right thing to do, and you just made my life easier." So that was one of those moments where I was like, "Okay, thankfully we made the right decision." And every single one of them said, "We're here to support you. Um, we want this to be a success." So I think that was one, and then maybe 6 months later, after we had divested, we did a pitch. We didn't win it, and then it was those weird pitches where initially people were not setting up their camera, and you're like, "Oh my god, we're presenting to this black square," right? Um, but this pitch particularly was very different. Every client was engaged, um, commenting in the chat box that how great the ideas were. We're making them think, and then we don't win it. But then a few weeks later, I get a call from another brand from that same company saying, "Hey, we are about to do a pitch, and the brand team from that other brand said we would be fools not to bring you in because they should have hired you." I'm like, "Oh, that's great." So we did that pitch and won it, and then they asked us, "Well, could you also pitch the global assignment. It was one project, so we pitched a global assignment and won it. And then they call us and say, well, at this point, just get the U.S. business too. Again, it was one project, but the fee for the 2 months of work was just made a year. It
Wow.
double our almost double our profit, and that was about 6 months after divesting. So those were two moments that stick to me as wow. Okay, it was the right thing to do.
Man, I'm getting secondhand happiness for you. That's so cool. Because I've yeah, I remember pitching like a client for like 6 years in a row to the point where, and it was an RFP, right? So not like an agency pitch, just like we're responding via email. We lost so many that we were at the point of like, do we just stop responding? Are they just using our template and outsourcing? But at that one where we were going to give up, we won it that next year. And it just, I feel like it always happens like that, where
Yeah.
you're about to give up, and then it switches, you know. And I feel like that's entrepreneurship. It's like
Yes. Yeah.
right when you're about to give up, it is when it goes through, you know.
Absolutely, and it's a big life lesson, right? Don't give up. I mean, trust your
Yeah,
gut, right? At some point, you do. There's sometimes that you go, "Yeah, right. No way, this is never going to happen."
yeah,
But don't give up, right? It's the right time is just around the corner most of the time.
yeah. And on that note, you know, so you mentioned you've been at Casanova 15 years. So you've been in the space long enough to see multicultural evolve
Mhm.
from Hispanic focus, the total market, to I don't even know what we call what we're in today. But I don't know. Can you? I would love to just hear you describe those shifts that you've been through in your career from your perspective.
Yes, we've seen them all. What we always say and what I always tell myself is, as long as we're focusing on the consumer, right, and understanding what the consumer needs and what are the right insights to reach to them, we can work in any of those. Uh, I don't know what you call them, so times. Even when it was total market, we're like, okay, well, this is what you want to do, client. Here's what we think you need to be doing. But if they're not listening to that, well, let me at least make sure that whatever you're doing in this space is right for our consumer. And it's been successful for us, right? It's like we can't just fight it uh, until the death. I mean, we obviously come back with and say, well, we don't think this is right for these reasons, but if this is what we need to do, we figure out how to do it. But as long as we're talking to our consumer in the right voice and with the right insights, it will be fine. And the client will remember that we told them this is not the way to do it, but if you have to, this is the best way to do it. Right? I mean, it's like when we win a piece of business, we always tell our clients, we're not here to reinvent your brand. We're here to make your brand relevant to Hispanics. We're not here to tell you, oh yeah, all the general market stuff doesn't work. Some of it may work. We just need to make it relevant to them. And our brands don't live in a bubble, right? Our consumer doesn't live in a bubble. They see your brand's general market advertising, so they cannot be one thing in English and one thing in Spanish. They have to be all that laddering up to one platform. And as long as we follow that, we always end up in the right side of this stages, if you may.
How do you describe what we're going through right now?
Well, the times we're in right now, they're a big mess. Um, but besides that, I mean, I think smart marketers get it. All of those that always focus Hispanic marketing on what it does for the bottom line, uh, they get it. And have we had some clients reduce their budget? Absolutely. Um, but none of them has completely pulled away. They all know that they need to make some adjustments, and the reason they're cutting it is not because they don't believe in Hispanic marketing. Is they have other financial pressures that they need to keep in mind, and they are cutting everything at similar ranges, not just cutting Hispanic. we're actually, in the last few months, we've actually had calls from clients that haven't been talking to the Hispanic segment, asking questions. So that's what I think. There's light at the end of the tunnel, because while there's a little bit of pullback, it's just like wait and see, right? It's not like during the pandemic that was like, okay, we need to pull back, and I'll see you later. I'll see you in a few months. Right now, it's a little bit of let's wait and see. Let's do this and test it. Um, but like I said, there's people asking questions that they were not asking last year. So I do feel that the change is just around the corner.
I agree
But
with
you have
you.
a theory, so what's yours?
Yeah, no. So very similar to what you're seeing, right? And as a researcher, we have like a little bit, I guess we're earlier in the funnel,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yes.
And so interestingly, we're having a record Q1. Um, Same what you're seeing, right? Well, we're seeing brands that have never researched Hispanic market researching. And what's interesting, without naming the brands, it's if I shared the brands, you would be like, wow, these are brands that have pulled back from DEI and multicultural. I know that DEI is a whole different animal, but it is linked, right? Because you need people in Fortune 500 companies that know about multicultural markets to do something meaningful. And so I guess it's more I guess it's more of a commentary that I wanted your opinion is that there's a disconnect. There's research being done, there's work being done behind the scenes, but public facing, it's companies that are pulling back. So I feel like they're investing without wanting to raise any red flags and get in trouble for perceived D&I. And I feel like I think it's great to invest. I think it's great that they're doing it. But when you do it and try to be quiet about it, I feel like the consumer now is very aware when you're doing that, when you're trying to have it both ways. You're trying to win them, but be quiet about it. And I feel like, especially Latinos, if you want our business, if you want us to buy your products and shop at your stores, we want a brand that's proud about it, not kind of doing it in secret. So I don't know, that's my theory. I'm like, do you feel that? What and if so, like do you agree? Like to me, I just feel like that's the wrong way to approach it.
I think there might be some of that. I think some of the research also may be to give themselves the ammunition they need to protect themselves internally to boards, right? Because many boards have been pushing down on no more DEI, no more investing in working on this segment, but they're also still uh, putting very very high demands on the results that these marketers need to deliver. And again, the smart marketers know that they won't be able to deliver the results if they don't talk to the Hispanic segment in multiple categories. So my theory could be that some of this research is to arm themselves to go back to the board and say, well, we did research and look what it says about our consumer. And I think I don't know that they, at least I know from our clients' perspective, it's not necessarily that they don't want to publicize that they are targeting Hispanic market. Is they just never have done it. They're like, well, we're not making a big fuss about doing other advertising, so why should we do about this? We just continue our daily work, if you may, and as long as we're delivering results, as long as we're focusing on what this will do for your company's bottom line, there will always be a market. And I think the problem with DEI was we didn't get to the point where we could show what it did for the company's bottom line, because it is business for profit, right? And people initially started doing the right thing because it was the right thing to do, but eventually when things got tough, it was like, well, let's see what things are actually bringing us profits, and those are the ones that stayed.
No, that's a really good perspective, and thank you. You're right. I mean, I'm sure some of it is to have it for the board. and maybe not at that moment, but they know, well, we have to invest in it, so let's do some research that in case it comes up, we're not just doing it off a hunch, and it's about the bottom line. Um, the- yeah. Another question, kind of on that point. I mean, you're consumer centric. You have a lot of built-in knowledge. Like, what are maybe some things that brands are misunderstanding about Latino consumers today, from your perspective?
I mean, I think some brands and some marketers are basically saying, well, Hispanics are going to start going back home because of everything happening here. They're not going to be uh, shopping. They're not going to have money to spend. And that is just a very short term and wrong view of our market, right? Our market is resilient. Our consumer is resilient. Is committed to their family. They have to feed their family. They always will find ways of feeding their family. And they're here because they want a better life for their family. They're not going to just go back because it's harder now. Uh, and I think that's I saw that years ago, especially here in California, when clients were saying, "Oh, Spanish are going back home in droves," and we're like, "Where? How?" That's what the media was saying, but that wasn't true. And is our consumer suffering? Absolutely. Um, but but they are not giving up. They've been through worst, and they're resilient. They're hardworking, and they're tough, right? So, and they will remember. They remember the brands that really um, maybe not took care of themselves, but at least acknowledged them and respected them. They're going to respect those brands when things change, and they will change.
And to your earlier point, you mentioned how we don't have the immigration that we had in the 80s and that big boom, but we have more growth coming from US births. So, regardless of what's happening politically, that's not changing. And then if we do look at the communities that are, in danger of either leaving or being deported, it's less than a fraction of a percent of the Latino market that represents undocumented immigrants, right? And so we get those same type of questions, research companies. Well, is it hard to research? Are they afraid to take surveys? And it's like, no, it's less than a percent of our population that represents that. The majority are US born Latinos. And to your point, if you ignore them, they're going to remember when all this comes. It's going to change. There's going to be a pendulum swing. I think it's already happening. We're already seeing signs of it. And they're going to remember.
I think so too, and we all have to keep reminding our clients, hey, it's only a small part. The rest of the market is still there. They're still waiting. They're waiting to see which brands are going to stand up and which ones are going to stand to be there for them.
Yeah, 100%. Switching gears a little bit to another thing that I feel like is impacting agencies, and not just multicultural agencies, is AI. Everyone's talking about AI. As a CEO, like, how is it actually impacting agency work, good or bad? What are you seeing?
Um, it's we're starting to see an impact. We actually had a very stepped or disciplined approach on how we were going to approach it. So last year was our year of learning and training. Um, Actually, the year before was a year of training. Last year was year two of training and then investing in tools. And then 2026 is really the year where we are starting to use AI as many areas of the agency as we can. We're also continuing to train because things change so fast. It's just we think we know it, and then all of a sudden things changed again. But we have made a commitment to continue to invest in AI and looking at it as a way to be more efficient, not as a way of cutting costs um, or deleting certain roles, is as a way of giving those people more time to do the 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 good work, the thinking work, right? And so far it seems to be working. Again, we're not looking at it as a way of cutting headcount. It's really a way of making what we have more efficient, and I think that has helped our people embrace it. Are we there where we need to be yet? No, but actually tomorrow we have an all agency meeting focused on AI and to talk about some of the initiatives that we are now adding to our plan to make sure that now that people are trained, that now they really embrace AI and because it's gonna be there to stay. Um, it's not gonna replace creativity. It's not gonna replace thinking, and definitely, it still has a lot to learn to be diverse and inclusive. But we cannot fight it and just sit there and say, well, it's just let's hope that it goes away because that's what many people said about digital advertising and then about social media. Look where we are today.
Thinking about like what to you, I mean, have you thought about like what a successful agency looks like 3 to 5 years from now with AI fully embedded in your systems? Like what do you envision, or what's your kind of North Star there?
I don't think I can think 3 years ahead because again, it's changed so fast. I think whatever I would tell you is it's gonna be a total guess because it's gonna be different. I think
Yeah.
I think what will definitely happen is that it will be part of what we do in versioning, how we take notes and keep records faster, stuff that would take our teams a lot of time to do. Uh, I'm still I'm still on the fence. I don't believe on those on the research part where they're making up. But I can't remember the term now. But
Synthetic data. Yeah.
synthetic data. I was like, no. I'm still like, nope. Someone has to come back and sell that to me because I'm still refusing that part. But I may change my mind eventually. But I'm like, no. It doesn't replace the person. Doesn't replace the actual human thinking. And so I see an agency that's going to be maybe a little faster in producing things, more efficient in how we deliver certain parts of the work. But it's still an agency that is first and foremost led by people.
I think that what I like most about your approach to AI, that it's thoughtful. I think lots of companies just jump in. You took time to understand it. Sounds like you tested some different platforms and then invested in it. That's a great strategy for any agency or any business looking to do that. I mean, I think we did the same from a research perspective. One day I'll show you synthetic data. We've made
Good.
some really interesting progress. I mean, with our focus is on multicultural, but yeah, it doesn't replace human at all. It's to help augment, and you're always going to need that human perspective, agency or research. For someone who's listening early in their career, or thinking about building something, what advice would you give them that they're maybe not hearing out there on social media?
I mean, one of the things I always tell students and our interns is your career is never going to be straightforward, right? It's not going to be linear. There's going to be a lot of twists and turns. Be open to that because you never know what's around that corner. Probably your best opportunity would be around the corner, right? If I hadn't taken the call from the recruiter, from the California recruiter, I would still be in Puerto Rico, right? And then if I had not pushed back on what COVID was doing to our business, right, I would not be owning an agency now. So you need to be open minded, and that doesn't mean that I was ready for either one. I was afraid more now than back then. I was young and I'm like young and you just do crazy things. But now I was scared of it. I wasn't even sure I could do it. But you need to keep yourself open and open to those challenges and not just listen to other people. Just trust yourself and go for it.
We're just finishing up Q1, starting Q2. What are you most excited about right now? What are you most excited about in our industry?
Well, I mean, I'm excited for the upcoming Hispanic Marketing Conference in April because one will get to get together with other people in the industry. Sometimes we're a little isolated, uh, and I think just being able to be with other people, like-minded people that are going through similar things is going to be great. Hearing what other people are doing and hearing from clients that are continuing to have success is going to be great. So I'm looking forward to that. And I think it'll be a good year. It's not going to be an easy year. I don't think we've had one of those in a long time, but I think it'll be okay. In the end, it'll be okay as long as we have a plan. As long as we stick to that plan, but also be flexible, right? Because again, there's things that we don't expect. When those things happen, be able to pivot fast enough. We should be in fine shape by the end of the year. I feel better about this year than I did at the beginning of last year. Because last year
Agree.
it was just a lot too much uncertainty. Now at least we know what we're dealing with, and we can figure it out, and we can go around certain things. And again, as long as we are delivering results for our clients are going to stay committed. So I feel good about the year.
Thank you so much, Ingrid. That was a great conversation. I feel like we covered a lot. Thank you, everybody, for listening. For those that want to stay in touch with you online, what's the best way to follow you?
I'm on Facebook and LinkedIn. I left X a long time ago, but I'm on LinkedIn and Facebook, and I go there every day, and I answer every request and every friend every friend request and every question. So happy to do it, and you can always, and then we can connect via email at the agency as well.
Great. Thank you so much. Thanks again. And thank you, everybody, for listening.